The usual deliberation from Grant Fox, looking for the first points of the day. And he gets them.
Grant Fox has been a phenomenon in rugby internationally. Throughout his career, his success rate as a goal kicker has been unmatched by any other kicker in the history of the game. This has resulted in the number of points scored by Grant in each test match being well ahead of all other competitors. In addition, this success rate has always posed a tactical threat to opponents and has allowed the All Blacks and Auckland to play the open, fast-moving game of continuity for which they're renowned.
Away from the restart, 2 minutes till half-time.
The sequence I'm going to take you through now is the way I believe that technically a rugby ball needs to be kicked in order for you to be successful. I'm going to teach you to teach yourself. Well, that's what I'm trying to achieve in theory, because in games of rugby, you can't have a coach run onto the field when you've missed a kick and tell you what you've done wrong. You can't stop the game and ask the referee to have it again. You have to ensure that from one kick to the next, you know technically what you were doing. So what we're going to try and achieve in the next 20 minutes or so is to teach you how to teach yourselves to kick a rugby ball. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the placement of the football. Nowadays, this thing's compulsory. You don't have to use it. There is still another method, and that's putting the ball directly into the ground. It's your choice, it's personal. There is no right and wrong way to do it. So choose the tee or choose to put the ball directly into the ground. The next thing is the setup of the football, either on the tee or in the ground. So the correct way to do it is to place the ball at least straight up and down, which I think that is, through that seam there. If not, leaning slightly forward. The contact point of the ball, in terms of where your kicking foot hits it, is about a quarter to a third of the way up, about where the blue crosses into the white here. If you stand the ball straight up and down, as such, at the back of your run-up, back there, you should be watching the contact point. You can see the contact point adequately if the ball's straight up and down. If you lean it slightly forward, it exposes the contact point visibly. What you must never do is lean it back, because as you can see, when you lean the ball backwards, you can't see the contact point, and that's a no-no. From here, there is no right and wrong way. I don't care whether you go directly back and then off to the side, or whether you walk straight round the corner. It doesn't concern me at all. You've got to find a way that you're comfortable with, because it's important when you're kicking to develop your own style. The only thing that I would suggest is that you watch the contact point on the ball at all times on the way back. You shouldn't look around like this. That doesn't achieve anything. At this point in time, the mental process should be starting to kick in, and to help the mental process, you need to be focusing on the object, which is obviously the ball. So don't look around and wave to someone in the crowd, some nice lady sitting up there. It doesn't work like that. Make sure you're watching the football. So I'll go slowly through basically what I do, which is 6 back and a couple off to the side. So you're basically in this point here. So that's 6 back and 2 to the side, so you can go 5 back and 3 off, 6 back and 2 off, or 3 off, or whatever you're comfortable with. You should point your body at the football. Okay, I don't believe that you should be at the goalpost of the target like this, because that puts you at odds to the football. Conversely, too far round like this I don't believe in either, because you're at odds to the football. Should be square on, facing the ball. How long you stay here is a personal thing. Some guys might like to spend a little while here concentrating, other people might cope with it by going a little more quickly. Again, it's a personal thing. Develop your own style. One thing you should be doing is starting to get a mental picture of what you're trying to achieve. Clearly, that is putting the ball through the goalpost over there somewhere. So the process I go through from this point is, it's a relaxation process. I go through a little breathing routine which helps me relax. Again, I'm not suggesting you should use that at all. You might be relaxed anyway. You might find that it is helpful. You might just be able to go and do it after staying here for a second or two. Again, find what's comfortable, what suits you best. What you should be doing, as I said, is getting a positive picture of the ball going through the goalpost, and that's the only thing in your mind, nothing else, so you've got to have a clear head. What I do is I draw an imaginary line from the ball to the goalpost. So along the ground, I'm looking at the trajectory I want the ball to take, the line I want it to take, and then there's a picture of the ball up in the goalpost, up in the middle there somewhere, hopefully. And generally when that image is presented in my mind, most times we become successful. One other thing that I would suggest that you adopt as part of your concentration or mental routine here, apart from the image of the ball going through the goalposts, is to have a couple of key words that you say to yourself to help get that focus. Now, all I do from this point, just before I go in to kick the football, is I say to myself, head down, follow through, which is really saying, watch the ball, which is obviously the key, not only to kicking a rugby ball, but to any sport that involves a ball. You have to watch it carefully. So the process that I go through is just head down, follow through to help the focus. So that mightn't be what suits you. Find a little key phrase that helps you on that concentration level, and I'm sure you'll find it beneficial. Now, from here we're basically ready to go. We've done all the little bits and pieces right. We're ready to start the approach to the football. What we need to create from this position here, which for around the corner kicker is reasonably narrow or straight on the football, is an arc in our run-up. Now, it's no good from this position going straight at the football. Round the corner kickers need to create an arc, which I'll come to later on the reasons why. Conversely, we can't go round this way, because at the end of the day we'll end up outside the line of the football. So from here, the first thing we need to do is take a step off to the left, and we're going to create a little arc like this that goes out this way and we come back into line. So I'll just demonstrate it slowly for you, and then when I get to that point I'll explain the reasons why we create this little arc. So we go from here off to the left, and then we start to come back into line to get ourselves to this position to kick the football. Now, if we've done everything right to this point, which hopefully we have, this becomes what I believe is the single most important factor in kicking a rugby ball correctly. And doing that little arc we talked about will help you get yourself in the correct position. Now, what we're trying to create in the run-up is the ability to put our non-kicking foot in the correct position. The success of kicking a rugby ball is where you put your non-kicking foot. It's got nothing to do with the leg that you kick the football with. All right, that just naturally follows and naturally happens. It's the setup that's important, which is all to do with the non-kicking foot, which in fact transfers to the whole left-hand side of the body. This is obviously for right foot kickers. If you're a left foot kicker, obviously everything is inverted the other way. So the first thing we're trying to create is the line of the instep. the line of the instep should be pointing directly at your target, which is the goalpost, over there in the distance somewhere. So straight at your target. The cross seam of the football here should be up alongside your ankle, okay? Directly alongside the ankle, a line out from that seam there should hit you in the ankle. So we've got that line there, the ankle there. The width from the football is the width of your hips. If you want to be perfectly on balance, you need to be the width of your hips, which will obviously vary from player to player because we've all got different widths of hips. So in there is incorrect, out there is incorrect unless you've got incredibly wide hips. Obviously you're in that position there. So that's the correct position for the non-kicking foot. Now, the arc and the run-up, the whole point in the arc and the run-up is to turn the body into this position, turn the left-hand side of the body towards the target, which is the goalpost again over in the distance. We must have our shoulder pointing at the target. And to help create the ability to point your shoulder at the target is your left arm. Now your left arm, to help that, obviously has got to be somewhere from 45 degrees or thereabouts to straight forward to keep your shoulder pointing at the target. You'll see what happens if I pull my shoulder back. It squares my chest off, which is technically incorrect in terms of kicking a rugby ball. So make sure your left arm is from here to here, which obviously is going to put your shoulder forward. Now obviously creating the arc helps that when you're having to come back at the football that way, to get there you've got to turn your body. You start turning your body. So hence one of the reasons for creating the arc in your run-up. The other thing that the arc in your run-up will create is opening your hips up. And what we've got, so again, to create maximum power and control, we've got to open our hips up to be able to push down through the football, through the strike zone. So again, if you watch my shoulder, you'll see what it does to my hips. When my shoulder's there, automatically the hips are opened up. When my shoulder's there, closes the hips off. Now you can kick a football from this position, and you can kick it accurately, but you could probably only kick it 30 or 35 metres. What we're trying to do, as I said before, create maximum power and control. You've got to get yourself in this position, hence the hips. Now the other thing that this will also do in terms of the correct foot position and correct left-hand side of the body position is put your head directly over the football, which is where it has to be. It's got to be directly above a little dimple in the top. So all this, what I talked about before, will help create that. Again, if you watch what happens when I pull my left arm away, watch what happens to my head. It gets pulled back and behind the football, which means that your weight's going to be on your heel for a start. So you're kicking from a technically incorrect position, okay? So again, just to reiterate, left instep at the line of the target, ankle up alongside the ball, width of the hips from the football, whole left-hand side of the body turned towards the target, and now we're in the correct position to follow through. Everything else from here will follow. As a matter of course, you don't have to worry about anything technically. If you get your body in this position, everything will naturally flow. What we're trying to create here is to transfer our body weight through the strike zone. Now the strike zone is just a small area from just behind the football to just in front of it. Round the corner kickers are obviously going to come from a plane up here, and they come down through into line, stay through the strike zone for a little way, and then their foot will come up and away. Natural motion around the corner kicking like that. Okay? And obviously if we can do that, we've got our body in the right position, we transfer our body weight from this position and we're pushing forward, and we should end up on our toes at the end, your body weight going forward. If you end up with your body weight on the heel, then obviously your weight's behind the football and technically you've got some problems. The reason for the opening of the hips and the closing of the hips is just this motion. It goes down, and you go through the strike zone and up and away. And if you liken it to my other passion, which is golf, when golfers hit a golf ball, and I'm not very adept at this, but in theory, I think I know it, is that they don't swing a golf club just with their arms like that. All right, they open their hips up, back through here, and they drive through the football. And that helps generate power and control. Through the golf ball, I'm sorry. So again, open hips up, down through the strike zone to generate that power and control. That's all we're trying to do with the rugby ball, same principle. So again, turning that left-hand side of the body is absolutely vital. The follow through. Obviously, you'll follow through in a certain position if you've done all the things we've talked about correctly. Now, the ideal position on the follow through, as I've talked for around the corner kicker, is from here. You're basically going to come up to this position here because it's a natural arc in the kicking motion. What I tend to find is that I can come from here and actually touch this arm, which makes sure that I've kept my shoulder forward and that I've got a nice long extended follow through. So if I can get from there up to there, then technically I believe I've done everything else correct. The thing to remember in the follow through is that you should end up on your toes. So if you're going to point the camera down to my toes, that from there you should end up in that position through there. So I just do it again, you come up. And in fact, I jumped a bit then, which is what I tend to do personally. And that's just, I guess, a double check, if you like, to make sure that I've transferred my body weight from behind the ball and I've gone all the way through it. If you end up on your heel down here, you'll tend to miss left, and you've obviously done, technically, you've done things wrong. You're square chested, and the square chest has pulled your head behind the ball, and your body weight tends to run down the axis through your body, which obviously means you're going to sit on your heel. So if your head's over the ball and your shoulders forward, you can't help but follow through correctly and get yourself up on your toes. And then just to reiterate, by getting up on your toes, that means you've done an absolutely correct transfer of the body weight. From there, right through and up and away, and you're almost projecting your body at the target itself. And so if you're doing that, then you've got all the fundamentals in place, as well as a correct follow through. Obviously, there's one other thing which I haven't alluded to date, and that's the actual part of the foot that you make contact with the ball. And the reason that I haven't alluded to it is, as I talked about before, it's all about the left-hand side of the body, and the right-hand side will tend to follow. Just if you do the left-hand side of the body right, the right-hand side of the body will just follow. So I don't really worry about trying to explain where you should hit the football with your foot, because that should automatically happen. But just for those of you who are interested, the bone on the top of your instep there is where you make contact with the football. So your foot is just cocked over, so you make contact with that bone. So from in behind the football, it's just like that. Okay, that's how we make contact. Just to go back a wee bit now on something that I should have explained earlier, but perhaps really it's just a personal choice thing, is that before you go, once you've placed the football, and before you go back to the end of your run-up, the address of the football, to help you train your body to put your non-kicking foot in the right place, if you ensure that before you go back that you just get a feel for where you should be putting your non-kicking foot. Okay, again, it's not vital, but I assure you it'll help. I spend some time at addressing the ball, making sure I put it in the right place, and I'm just training the body and the mind that's where I want it. Once I've gone to the end of the run-up and come in to actually kick the football, that I'm training myself to put my foot there. So maybe a good practice thing to do, to make sure that you get it in the right place beforehand, and then you can go back from there. Okay. The thing that you'll be thinking about now is, okay, what happens when something goes wrong? What have I got to look for in terms of correction? So we'll cover that now, and they're really very simple. And this is what I'm getting back to you in terms of the introduction I made at the start of teaching yourself how to kick a rugby ball. And obviously you need to identify the things that you do wrong in order to make sure that you do it right. So obviously there are three ways you miss. One, you miss left of the goalpost. Two, you miss right of the goalpost. And the third one, you're short. Well, short really shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to talk about missing left and right. And we're going to go right back to the placement of the left foot, because this is a critical factor. If that's where your instep is aiming, that's where you'll miss. Okay? Reason for that is quite simple, that if you watch my hips there, I'm just inside the line of the ball in the correct position, and I'm going to come down and through the strike zone. If I turn there, I push this hip out, and so when I go to come down through the strike zone, I'm actually going to have pushed my leg outside the line of the ball. So when I actually make contact, it's going to be pushing it in that direction. It's going to be pushing it when my body's telling me to push it. So you will miss left if your instep is facing that way. If you are behind the football, like that, you will again miss left. The reason for that is that you come down through the strike zone behind the ball. And because of the round the corner kicker's motion of down, through and up this way, you're going to go through the strike zone behind the ball and start to come up and out early, which means that you're going to make contact with the ball when your foot's going that way. You have to miss left, you can't miss anywhere else. And obviously if you do both, you're in deep trouble. To miss right is really just the absolute reverse, instep that way. Reason for that is that we've turned our hips so far inside the line of the ball that you're going to come from in the strike zone, come down towards the strike zone, and your foot's going to be pushing out to the right. Hence the ball has to go that way. The other way you're going to miss right is your foot's ahead of the football. Again, you're going to come, you're on your way down into the strike zone. Your foot is still pushing out in that direction. So the ball has to go that way. You'll actually be very lucky to get this one off the ground if your foot's ahead of the football. It's probably the most uncommon of all the technical deficiencies. The other way that you will create problems is obviously with the width. If you're too close to the ball, as in here, you've pushed your hips outside the line. So again, as we talked about before, you come outside the line of the ball, come through the strike zone here, you are going to miss left. If you're out here, you will tend to miss right, although very occasionally you can miss left. And the reason you'll tend to miss right is that you reach for the football and you tend to get it not on the bone but down near the toes, and you just get a small piece of the football. You don't get enough of it to actually start it in the direction of your target. You actually tend to it's going to get a little wee piece of it and hit it off right, which is the same as the golf. If you hit the ball on the toe of a golf club, it'll tend to go right because you haven't got yourself into line properly. Same principle here. The key to the drop kick is to be able to drop the ball in the same place all the time. So technically we put our body in the same position as a place kick. The key is we've got to drop the football in the same place all the time. Now, again, there's not a right and a wrong way to hold the football. You've got to find what the most comfortable way that you can in order for you to be able to drop the ball the same way and in the same place all the time. What we're trying to create with the drop kick is get the ball to hit the ground and come up to the height it would be on the kicking tee and then make contact with your kicking foot. That's exactly what we're trying to create. So just like tennis players, when they're serving, and you will have seen the professionals, they throw the ball in the same place all the time. Their actions, I guess, basically the same, but they certainly throw the ball in the same place all the time. They know where they're throwing it. In order for the drop kick to be successful, you must be able to drop it consistently in the same place all the time. Now, obviously, there are marginal variations in terms of height versus distance. Those of you who are responsible for kicking the ball off, we've obviously got to use the drop kick most of the time now. The higher you want to kick it, you just let the ball bounce a little bit higher and you make contact with the ball when it's a little bit higher off the ground. And what we're doing there is that we've gone through the kicking zone back here and our foot's coming up and it's made contact on the upward stroke, and therefore it'll project the ball higher in the air. Naturally, we're starting to come this way, so it should actually help you curl the ball back a little bit towards your forwards. Okay, you want to kick it longer. You've obviously got to kick it a bit lower to achieve that, so you just don't let it bounce quite so high. Okay, so you're going to hit the ball quite close to the ground and it's going to be a longer, lower, flatter kick. Okay, so that's the only, just to cover the kicking off part again, the height versus distance equation is governed by how high you hit the football off the ground. You've obviously got to be wary of underfoot conditions, because when the ground is soft, wet, and or muddy, or all three, the ball's not going to bounce very much. So you're going to have some trouble getting the ball to get a nice high trajectory, so you just have to tell the big dumb forwards to chase a little harder. Obviously when it's nice and dry, no problem getting the ball to bounce and get the height versus distance equation right.
There the ball comes back to Fox,
and now we come to the punt kick. Again, the principles in terms of where you're meant to place your body is exactly the same as we went through for the place kick. The ball will go in the direction of your non-kicking foot instep. Left-hand side of your body turned towards the target, which might be a touch line 30, 40, 50 metres downfield. It might be open spaces on the wipers kick out down here somewhere. But again, you've got to create the little arc to help put your body in the right position. The punt kick is basically, the principle's the same as the drop kick. The further you want to kick the football, the closer you'll hit it to the ground. The higher and shorter you want to hit the football, the higher you hit it off the ground. Pretty simple. The only difference in terms of principle compared with the place kick and the drop kick is that for the punt you've actually got to put the ball out in front of you a little bit. You can't obviously kick it down here unless you're trying to do a grubber kick, which is obviously, that's a correct position to do a grubber from here, but you can't get the ball in the air in a punt kick from this position. It's got to be out in front. So again, the longer and further you want to kick it, your foot's coming through that way. The higher and shorter you want to kick it, your foot's come through the bottom of the strike zone, is on its way up. Okay, but the principle's the same. You'll find that your head, instead of being there, it's going to be out here a wee bit. So it's still going to be over the football. No different, shoulder pointed forward, still going to be over the football, which is going to assist in transferring the body weight through the ball so you end up on your toes. So the principle on all three types of kicking, the place kick, the drop kick and the punt kick, is all the same. It's just there are slight variations within each of them, but in terms of the technical detail, it is basically identical. In conclusion, practice in the bread and butter zone. Bread and butter zone for me is 15 metre line, 15 metres in from the 22 on either side, going back to a point on the 10 metre line, out here somewhere behind us, in the middle to a point. So you come back from the goal line, to the 22 metre line, 15 metres in from touch, back to a point on the 10 metre line. Everything in that zone there is what I call a bread and butter region. It's something that you should be knocking over all the time, if not 9 times out of 10. And the more you practice it, the more you're going to feel comfortable in a match situation. By all means, practice in the zones a bit wider and a bit further back, but they should be lesser in numbers than you're practicing in the bread and butter zone. I hope you've learned something. Actually, come behind you. I want to watch your left foot. Someone help him. Good. Yeah. Did you feel it? You feel it? You were quite wide. You can see your sprig. There's one sprig. There's the other one, right? See where your foot was? See where that is? That's got to be. And because you see, that's actually, you got bigger hips than me too. I would say you actually got outside the line of the ball. So really what your correction is your heel, not your toe. Your correction's your heel. Get your heel to there, right? Don't take your heel there and put your toe there, because then you're too close, right? So just...
Obviously, do you normally bring your foot back into here, or do you bring it straight back into there?
No, well, I go straight back, but I was asked this the other day. I can never remember which foot I take back first. To watch some tapes, I think it's on... No, it's that one. So it's take. Which one do you take away? Your non-kick?
Same one, but
Yeah.
I don't know whether you bring it back straight back into here. Or
No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It depends. I mean, how you get from there to there, it's actually not important. Just let me try something, just to try and stop that. No, stay where you are, stay where you are, stay where you are, stay where you are. Just turn your body, that's it. Just point your chest at the seam, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't, just the tendency, if you get a bit square on like that at the start, funnily you'll end up like that. You just point yourself, not right around here, but just point your body straight at the ball, which should help that turn. Yeah. When you miss in a game, are you predominantly missing left?
yeah, I think so.
Right, now, what you're going to do, just take your first step, right? As you would normally do it, you go to there.
No, I don't know.
Well, just start it and go halfway there and stop, right? Just as you would normally do it. You're right, okay. Do it again, because you seem to actually accentuate more going out to the left than... Just do it again. Yeah, well, see, but you're not doing that. That was fine, but that's not what you did.
On that one there, I was moving out.
Yeah, right, well that's fine, but the first time you did, what you were doing is you basically took a step, whichever foot it was, back in here, and then basically went straight at the ball. If you can do what you're doing there, then that's going to help that problem of the ball going to the left. You got to get that bend in your run up, okay? Just go from there, find your spot. You're right. You'll just sense where you're comfortable. You should, because we can adjust as we go in. Yeah, better. You come probably a little straight, a little early. Can I?
Well, I mean, when you're approaching safety.
Yeah, yeah. See, what I would do is I would come from about here, and I would come from here, right? Which is, but you would start. I started my turn in about here. You do it about here. Can you just go do it and take 3 steps at the start? Just see what happens.
3.
3 from here. No, go your 6, but go 3 that way. Just your normal 3. you go 2, just go 3 and see what happens.
Put Auckland in front. Yes, it is 15 points to 13. Fox lands his 5th penalty of the game.